about the introduction to mycology. So in the introduction, study of mycology is called, study of fungi is called mycology. Mycos means mushroom. It can be either aerobes or facultative aerobes. They will feed on water, soil, and decaying debris. They will obtain the energy through chemical medium. So that is why they are called chemotropic organisms. Their cell wall consists of chitin, mannan, polysaccharides, and sterols. They can produce either by sexually or asexually. And there are few edible fungi also. So we are only concerning about the clinically important fungi or the fungi that will cause infections in the humans. Then we classify the fungus. So fungus has been traditionally classified into 4 types. We have yeast-like fungi, molds, and dimorphic fungi. Now, taxonomically, fungus has been kept under the phylum Thallophyta. In this Thallophyta, we have 4 classes. So the 4 classes include Zygomycota, Bacillomycota, Ascomycota, and imperfect fungi. So this is the taxonomical classification. Zygomycota, Ascomycota, Bacillomycota, and imperfect fungi. Then coming to the morphology, first we have yeast. Example is Cryptococcus neoforms. Then we have yeast-like fungi that includes Candida albicans, which possess pseudopodia or pseudohyphae. Then third one is molds. So molds means these are the strands of yeast cells grow together to form a mold. A group of hyphae will make a mold or mycelium. We have 2 types of mycelium: aerial mycelium and vegetative mycelium. Aerial mycelium will present above the medium, whereas vegetative mycelium will present below the medium. Then we have other one, which is the dimorphic fungi. So in the dimorphic fungi, we have two types depending upon the temperature. We have yeast cell. Yeast cell will be around room temperature, okay, around body temperature, which is around 37 degrees centigrade. Whereas mycelial form or mold form at room temperature, around 22 to 25 degrees centigrade. Some of the examples for dimorphic fungi include Blastomyces dermatidis, Paracoccidoides brasiliensis, Coccidoides simitis, Histoplasma capsulatum, Sporothrix kenki. So these are the few examples for dimorphic fungi. Then we discussed about the next thing, which is reproduction and sporulation in fungi. Coming to the reproduction and sporulation, we have 2 types of reproduction in the fungi. One is sexual reproduction, which occurs by meiosis, and second one is asexual reproduction that happens by mitosis. Sexual reproduction happens due to fusing of 2 cells, whereas in the mitosis you will see splitting of cells. So in either case, in both either sexual or asexual reproduction, ultimately we will get spores. These spores can be either sexual spores or vegetative sexual spores or asexual spores. So sexual spores, we have 4 types depending upon their external morphology. These sexual spores has been divided into 4 types. One is oospore, which resembles like an ovum; zygospore, that resembles like a zygote; basidospore, that resembles like a basidium, like a bowl. Then the 4th one is ascospores, which contains a sac-like structure. Hence, it is called as ascospores. In all types of sexual spores, there will be involvement of male and female strands of the fungi. Rather than saying male and female, here we will say positive strand and negative strand. The positive strand and negative strand fuse together to form a new spores. Okay, those include oospore, zygospore, basidospores, and ascospores. Then next one is asexual spores. These asexual spores are divided into 2 types. We have the spores that will present below the medium, they are called vegetative spores, and we have the spores that will present above the medium, they are called as sexual spores. Coming to the vegetative spores, can anyone say the 3 types of vegetative spores? Students, what are the 3 types of vegetative spores?
3 types.
The
blastospore, arthrospores, and chlamydospore.
Very good. Blastospores, arthrospores, and chlamydospores. Blastospores resemble like a tear-shaped, whereas arthrospores are rectangular, bivalve thickness. Okay, they have a double layer outer shell, and they are in rectangular shape. Whereas chlamydospores have a thick outer shell, which are in circular shape. This chlamydospores happens because of bulging of the hyphae. So in between the segments of the hyphae, you will see a bulged portion called chlamydospores. So these are the vegetative spores. Then second one is aerial spores. Aerial spores will present above the medium, and these spores have the tendency to float in the air, and they can able to migrate to a farther distance. Okay, that is what they are called aerial spores. Aerial spores, we have 4 types: conidiospores, sporangiospores, microconidiospores, and macroconidiospores. The major difference between microconidia and macroconidia is, in the macroconidia you will see septums, whereas in the microconidia you will see small spores. Okay, so these are the 4 types of aerial spores we have. Then this is just a description about blasto, arthro, and chlamydia spores, and this is the description about conidio, micro, macro, and sporangiospores. Then after reproduction and sporulation in fungi, the next topic we have started is laboratory diagnosis of fungal samples. So how we will diagnose the fungal samples in the laboratory? So these fungal samples can be diagnosed in 3 methods. One will be the microscopic method, direct microscopic method. Second one is culturing, and third one is tissue sections. We will how to process the tissue sections for identifying of these fungal samples. So these are the 3 approaches we will take to identify the fungal diseases. Other than this, as our Shahrukh said, we have serological tests, we have ELISA tests, we have radioimmunoassay tests, we have other few tests that can be utilized for the identifying of fungus that we will study when we are discussing about individual fungi. So broadly, the laboratory diagnosis has been broadly divided into these 3 types: direct microscopy, culture, and tissue cultures. Okay, tissue section cutting. So first, let us see the direct microscopy. In the direct microscopy, we have 4 approaches. The best or the most commonly used method for identifying fungal will be KOH preparation, potassium hydroxide preparation. So under KOH, you will see this black and white like strands of fungi. The major advantage of KOH is it will eliminate all other cells other than fungal cells. Only fungal cells will be present in the medium, in the stain, in the glass slide. Now, this KOH has a concentration. So there is a fixed concentration for this KOH. Can anyone say the concentration of KOH?
10%.
10%.
10%, okay, not 30. 10% KOH will be utilized for identifying these fungal samples. Then second one is KOH with chalcophore. So chalcophore is a UV fluorescent component. Upon addition of this, under UV microscope, we can see the fungus in a very bright green color. So very bright colored fungus will be appeared in the KOH with chalcophore preparation. So chalcophore is a specialized technique we used for identifying fungi. Sorry. Then third one is gram staining. So this gram staining, why we are performing gram staining? Because there are few fungi that are gram positive in nature, such as your Candida species. So this yeast-like fungi, Candida is a gram positive fungi. So in order to differentiate Candida from Cryptococcus neoforms, we will go with gram staining. In the gram staining, if we got gram positive, means definitely that could be a Candida. If we are not getting any stain in the gram staining, means that indicates it might be Cryptococcus neoforms. Then we will go with negative staining by Indian ink. Then we will proceed with Alshan blue stain to confirm whether it is Cryptococcus neoforms or not. So this is the third direct microscopy approach, which is gram staining. Gram staining is usually done for detection of or to identify the difference between Candida species and the Cryptococcus neoform species. Because in the Candida species, Candida is also yeast. Sometimes only this yeast Candida will develop the germ tube, that pseudo hyphae. Okay, but usually Candida also looks like a yeast cell. So in order to differentiate Candida yeast from Cryptococcus yeast cell, we will go with gram staining. Candida will give positive, whereas Cryptococcus neoforms won't stain at all. That's it. Then next one is Indian. Last and final is Indian ink preparation. In the Indian ink preparation, we will go with for the detection of Cryptococcus neoforms. So these are the 4 direct microscopic methods to identify the fungi. Is there any doubts so far, students? Any doubts or any confusions until now? No, right? Are you listening me, students?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So no doubts, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No,
Very
sir.
good.
Yes,
I
sir.
got
Yes,
it.
sir.
You were saying there is no doubts. I got the point. Okay. Next one is, yeah. So under KOH, you will see different types of hyphae students. They can be either septate, aseptate, They can be in spiral form, they can be in racket mycelium, or you can even see flavic chandelier type hyphae. Okay, so these are the things you will see. So the procedure of doing KOH is very straightforward. You will take a 1 or 2 drops of 10% KOH on a glass slide. Then you will add a fungal sample to this KOH. You will mix it. You will keep a cover slip. Then you will heat under the flame. Just gentle heat. Some 5 seconds is enough. After gentle heating the slide, you can directly observe under microscope. Under microscope, you will see this beautiful pieces of fragments of fungi. Okay, it can be either spiral, racket, or flavic. So I said I have given you a small assignment or homework on identifying examples for spiral, racket, and flavic. I'm very sure you have not done the work, but I will be really appreciative if you do the homework that I have given of finding examples for each and every thing. You know, at least one person should do it. At least one student, okay? Try to Google the examples for all these fungi and keep the notes in the group itself. So everyone will get the benefit out of your hard work. So do this homework, okay? Please, it will be nice. I can do it, but if I'm giving everything to you, there won't be that, kick, that learning thing. Okay. So second one is Chalcophore, we discussed. So under UV microscope, you will see bright colored fungi. And gram staining is usually for Candida species, and Indian ink is for identifying of Cryptococcus neoforms infection. Of course, it will cause brain infection. Then second one is culturing. How we can culture a fungal medium. How to culture a fungus. Okay. This fungus will be traditionally cultured or most commonly cultured by the use of this SDA. SDA is a Sabrous dextrose agar. I think I need not to discuss much about SDA because we already discussed in detail in the laboratory. So what is Sabrous dextrose agar? We can prepare either tubes, slants, or we can also prepare the petri dishes in the petri dishes. Okay. So this is all about SDA. So I'm just skipping SDA. Is it okay, students? Or do you want repetition of SDA? Shall I skip SDA in today's lecture? Because SDA we already discussed. SDA is this fungal specific media where it has a brain heart infusion agar, it has agar, then it has a dextrose, which will supply for the fermentation and energy resources. Then it has cyclohexamide, which is antibacterial, and you have chloramphenicol, which is chloramphenicol antibacterial, and cyclohexamide is for antifungal. So then that is the procedure, and you already know everything about SDA. So now I'm moving forward. LPCB. So LPCB is not a culture technique. Clearly keep in mind, students, this LPCB is approached for studying the whole fungal morphology. Okay, I will tell you, listen properly. In case of KOH preparation, what we are doing is we will take a fungal sample and we will tease the sample. Teasing means we will literally split the fungal sample, or we will mix the sample in the KOH. So upon doing this thing, we cannot see the complete morphology of the fungi. We cannot see the hyphae, the sterigmata, the conidiophore, conidiospores. All these beautiful structures of fungi will be missed if we are going with the KOH preparation. If you want to see the complete fungal morphology, then you should go with the mounting technique. In the mounting technique, what we will do is we will take a culture. For mounting technique, always we need a culture. From the culture, you can take a loop full of fungal sample. Then you can keep this fungal sample under the in the LPCB mount, and you can see beautiful morphology of fungi. I will show you the morphology. So this is an example of this is a one best mold form of fungi. So this is not Aspergillus, but here you can see just like this diagram, just like the diagram that is shown in the textbook, same diagrammatic picture or diagrammatic representation is there in the real fungi. So you can see conidiophore, you can see head, you can see some sterigmata like branches, and you can also see the conidiospores around it. So how beautiful it is, right? So this complete fungal morphology can be identified only in LPCB. LPCB stands for lactophenol cotton blue mount. So in the lactophenol cotton blue mount, you can able to visualize fungus as a whole. The complete morphology of fungi will be visualized under LPCB. So this is how an LPCB mount looks like. Literally, students, even in our own lab, we can do fungal samples and you will see same pictures under microscope. You will see same fungal morphology under the microscope. It will be really interesting to see fungal microscopy actually. Whatever pictures we are seeing in the textbook, the same, they will look exactly like that. It will resemble just like the diagrams. So that is something really interesting. And also fungi are comparatively large specimens. So you can see the complete morphology with under the microscope. Okay, so let us see what is this LPCB. What is the composition of LPCB that we will see. Okay, LPCB stands for lactophenol cotton blue. So SDA, I'm just skipping it. You already know this SDA was it is a fungal specific medium which is formulated by Chabros in the 1892. Everything, you know the principle, you know the procedure, you know everything. So I'm just skipping this LPCB. Okay. Sorry. I'm just skipping this SDA. So I'm just skipping SDA and I'm moving forward with lactophenol cotton blue. So what is this lactophenol cotton blue? So it is just a simple bottle of reagent, students. LPCB is readily available in the lab. All we need to do is we need to take a LPCB, 2 to 3 drops of LPCB and add fungal sample, keep a cover slip and observe under microscope. So under microscope, you will see these beautiful structures. Here you can see macroconidia with septate macroconidia. We can see here we can see aspergillus. Here you can see sporangiospores. So the complete fungal morphology can be identified by using this LPCB mount. Yes, students. Any doubts?
Can you repeat? Can you repeat a little bit?
Can I repeat of what? This LPCB.
Yes.
Okay. So LPCB is mainly for identifying complete fungal morphology. If you want to see the complete morphology, okay, you don't want to destroy the conidiophore, you don't want to destroy the hyphae, you don't want to destroy any fungal structures. You would like to see the complete morphology of fungi. In order to achieve that, we can proceed with this mounting technique. So what is the meaning of mounting? Mounting means we will suspend sample in a fluid medium. We will suspend sample in a water or in a reagent so that the morphology will be preserved. We are not going to tease with the heating loop. Rather than teasing with heating loop, we will just submerge the sample in this fluid. So upon submerging, the structure won't be damaged and whole structures will be visualized under microscope. So that is the major advantage of mounting. Okay. Here we will use a specialized mount called LPCB, lactophenol cotton blue mount, for identifying of fungi. Then why we are using LPCB? Very straight answer. LPCB is something that can able to visualize fungi. It is something that has properties of staining the cell wall of fungi. So that is why we are using this lactophenol cotton blue. And also this LPCB contains chemicals that will clear other pathogens. LPCB contains bacteriolytic enzymes that will remove bacteria from the sample. It will also have certain antiparasitic egg removal. So only fungal samples will be visualized under LPCB. Okay. So let us see the composition of LPCB. So microscopy is performed from fungal colony in teased mounts or slide cultures to study the morphology of hyphae. To study the morphology of hyphae, spores, and other structures of fungi, we will do this LPCB mount. Okay. So this LPCB contains lactic acid, phenol, and cotton blue. So the morphology of asexual spores or conidia is of diagnostic importance. So that is why this morphology can be identified by this LPCB. That's it. So we need not to go much further. Okay, LPCB is utilized for seeing the complete morphology of the fungi. Okay, then next one is tissue sections. Okay, now we got a case like this. So this is a fungal infection. This is a cutaneous fungal infection which is called mycetoma. So here The fungus was literally eating his skin. Then, if the fungi eating skin, why he got these tumors? What is the reason for development of tumors? When the fungi start infecting, our body's immune system will get triggered, and our body's immune system will start releasing inflammatory molecules at the site of fungal infection. Due to these inflammatory molecules, we will see formation of small tumors, and these tumors, through time, these tumors will get large. That means our immune system trying to contain means it is trying to localize the fungus only in the leg, and it won't allow this fungus to spread into the body. In order to do that mechanism, these tumors will be formed, and in these tumors you will see pus. A very bad smell pus can be seen in these tumors, and it is really challenging for the person who has this level fungal infection. The only remedy that we have is to amputate the leg. That is the only remedy we have in a severe or chronic fungal infection. So here you can see his all fingers has been submerged. That means these fingers has been digested by the fungi. So fungus releasing some enzymes, and these enzymes digesting the tissue alive. So this is a cutaneous fungal infection, and this particular infection is called mycetoma. There are many species of mycetoma that we will discuss in detail in the next lectures, in the future lectures. So as of now, just remember this is a mycetoma. Then there are 4 species of mycetoma. We have Marderella mycetoma. Then we have Acromonium. So like that, we have 4 species of mycetoma species. Only upon successful detection of the right type of mycetoma species, we can proceed with a proper treatment to the patient. We need to know what type of mycetoma infection it is. If we know the exact species, then it will be very easy for us to go for treatment. We can give a specific drug so that the patient will get diagnosed, right? For that purpose, we will take a piece of tissue. We will take a biopsy of this tumor, and we will go for observing the fungi under the microscope through fungal screening methods. For identifying biopsy-mediated fungal samples, the best stain is PAS stain, periodic acid shift stain. This periodic acid shift stain is a gold standard stain for identifying fungal infections or fungus embedded within a tissue. Fungus present in tissue can be identified by PAS stain. So very simple. You will take a fungal sample on a glass slide. You will make a smear out of this sample. Then you will add PAS stain. You will keep cover slip, and you will observe under microscope. Very straightforward. Okay, this is called the PAS staining technique. So these are the 3 broad methods of identifying fungi in the laboratory. One is direct microscopy. One is direct microscopy. Second one is culturing. Third one is tissue sections. So can you able to see the PowerPoint, students? Are you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 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 In the direct microscopy, we have KOH with Kalkofor, gram staining, and annealing preparation. Then we discussed about culturing. Culturing, we have SDA culture and LPCB. LPCB is a mounting technique rather than culturing technique. Okay. Just keep in mind. Sometimes they are saying LPCB as a culture, but it is not a culture. It is just a mounting technique where we will take a sample from a grown culture medium. Okay. So the main purpose of LPCB is to visualize the complete morphology of the fungi. The fungal complete morphology can be identified by LPCB mount. LPCB stands for lactophenol cotton blue mount. Okay. So you can see the complete morphology of fungi by using this LPCB mount. Then third one is tissue sections. Usually tissue sections are for identifying systemic fungal infections. Okay, systemic fungal infections can be identified by this tissue sections, biopsies. So the gold standard special stain that we will use for detection of systemic fungal infections is periodic acid shift stain or PAS stain. PAS stain can be incorporated for the identification of fungus present in a tissues. So this is all about the basics in mycology. So in the beginning, we discussed about basic introduction to mycology. Then we discussed about the morphology of fungi, where we discussed about the taxonomical morphology and depending upon the shape. In the shape, we discussed yeast-like molds, and we discussed about dimorphic fungi. We also know the terms about what is yeast, hyphae, mycelium, mold, or conidia. Then we discussed about reproduction and sporulation in fungi. We have two types of reproduction, sexual and asexual. Then we have sexual spores and asexual spores. Asexual spores, we have vegetative spores and aerial spores. Then we discussed about laboratory diagnosis, where we can go with direct microscopy, then culturing and tissue sections. In the direct microscopy, we have KOH, KOH with chalcophore. Then we have, what is this? Gram staining and Indian ink preparation. Then we discussed about culturing techniques, where we have LPCB and SDA. Then we discussed about tissue sections. Then my next topic will be classification of fungal diseases. Very important. This is also one of the important basics to you. So my next topic is classification of fungal diseases. How do the fungal diseases has been classified? How many types of fungal diseases we have? This we are going to study now. So kindly write side heading as a classification of fungal diseases. Are you following me, students? Is everything clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So now I will discuss in detail about classification of fungal diseases. These fungal diseases was broadly classified into three types. The fungus that will only infect or that will only eat the dead cells of our body. Such fungal infections are called superficial infections or superficial fungal diseases. Superficial fungal diseases only infect the dead cells, such as your hair, your nails, and your epidermis of the skin. Okay, these are called superficial fungal infections. By the way, the disease caused by fungus is called as mycosis. The disease caused by fungus is called mycosis. So we have three types of mycosis. One is superficial mycosis, where the fungus will only dependent on the dead cells of our body. It can be hair, nails, or skin, epidermis of the skin. This is called superficial mycosis. Okay, so this one, first one is superficial mycosis. Then there are few fungi that has capability to penetrate just below the epidermis. Our topmost layer of skin is epidermis. After epidermis, you have the dermis. There are few fungi that has the capability of penetrating into the dermis layer of the skin. In the dermis of the skin, we have the blood vessels, we have the immune cells. If fungi is able to penetrate into the dermis, means it will cause an immunological reaction. Our immune system will get activated and you will see tumors formations on the skins. Such dermis infections are called as dermatophytal infections or cutaneous mycosis. The second layer is called cutaneous of the skin, cutaneous layer of the skin. So the second type of infection will be skin infection, which is called cutaneous mycosis or subcutaneous mycosis. The second type of fungal infections are subcutaneous mycosis. That means they can able to penetrate up to the subcutaneous layer of the skin. That is why they are called subcutaneous mycosis. They can go up to the under of, they can go just below the skin. Such infections are called subcutaneous mycosis. Okay. Then last and final is deep mycosis. Deep mycosis means these are the fungus that can penetrate the skin and they will go to the organs of our body. Or deep mycosis is also called systemic mycosis. They will cause infection to multiple organs of our body. Hello? నేను క్లాస్లో ఉన్నా సరే సార్ నేను చూసుకుంటాను ఇంటికి వెళ్ళి అన్నం తిన్నావా ఇంత టైం పట్టిందా 3 అయిందా సరే ముందు అన్నం తినేసి నేను అరగంట తర్వాత చేస్తాను sorry students. Okay, we have 3 types of fungal infections. First one is superficial mycosis. That means this fungus only feed on the dead layer of the dead cells of the body. Then second one is subcutaneous mycosis, where the fungus will cause infection to the skin. Then systemic mycosis. Here the fungus will go to inside our body. It can cause infection to lungs, brain, liver, eyes, mouth, vagina, everywhere. They are called as systemic infections. So these are the 3 broad categories. We have superficial mycosis, subcutaneous mycosis, and systemic mycosis. Now, in the superficial mycosis, these are further divided into 2 types. They are called surface infections and cutaneous infections. Just remember, students, if you see the anatomy of the skin, the topmost layer will be epidermis. After epidermis, the second layer will be cutaneous layer. The second layer of skin will be cutaneous layer of the skin. Then the third layer will be the subcutaneous layer. From subcutaneous layer, you will see the actual skin, or you will see the actual skin where there is blood vessels involvement. Now, in the surface infections, we have divided into 2 types. Superficial mycosis. In the superficial mycosis, we divided into 2 types. Surface infections. Surface infection means this is the fungi that will feed only on the epidermis layer of the skin. And second one is the fungi that will feed on cutaneous layer of the skin. Such infections are called cutaneous infections. So superficial mycosis is further divided into 2 types. Surface infections, cutaneous infections. Surface infections can be hair infection, nails infection, and epidermis or the outer layer skin infection. So these 3 are the surface infections. And second one is cutaneous infection. In the cutaneous infection, the fungi can able to penetrate into the cutaneous layer of the skin. So this is the simplest classification of fungal diseases. You have superficial infection, subcutaneous, and deep mycosis or systemic infections. In the superficial, we have further divided into surface infections and cutaneous infections. I will give few examples, then you will get it. Surface infection. The most common surface infection is your dandruff. Dandruff is one of the common surface infection. Okay. Then example for cutaneous infection is sometimes in your pubic region, around the genitalia, in between the legs, due to too much moisture or due to humid climate, you will see certain infection. You will see round circles, patches of bulged skin patches. You will see fungal infection. That is actually a cutaneous infection. That is a cutaneous fungal infection. Okay, vitiligo or something. I know the infection name in my language, but I don't know in Hindi or in English. I will tell it later. Okay, actually they are called dermatophytal infections, but I don't know the common term for it. So this is all about the classification of fungal diseases. Okay, subcutaneous mycosis. I need not to say much about subcutaneous mycosis. We already have a best example, which is the mycetoma. In the previous slide, I have shown you a leg picture with a tumor on it, a fungal tumor. So that is actually a subcutaneous mycotic infection. Then third one will be systemic infection. Systemic infection means here you will see lung infection, eyes infection. Recently we saw in COVID patients, we saw this black infection, black fungus infection, yellow fungus infection. So they're giving names. Actually that black fungus is mucormycosis. It is a mucor infection, which is a systemic fungi that will infect the specific parts of the body. So that we will discuss later. So as of now, this is the broad classification of fungal diseases. Any doubts so far in this slide? Any doubts in this slide, students? Are you listening?
No, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Doubt? What is your doubt? Okay.
No
I
doubt,
think-
sir.
Okay. Yes for no. I got it. Fine. So now I will move on to the first mycosis, which is your superficial mycosis. So actually, by now we finished unit 1. So this is the syllabus in unit 1. Then we can proceed to the second unit. In the second unit, what they have given is types of superficial infections, types of subcutaneous infections, and types of systemic infections. These three are included in the second unit. So before that, let me give you a short notes on classification of diseases. So first, let us see superficial mycosis. Okay, I'm giving you a general description about all these diseases. Okay, as an introduction. So in the next unit, we will discuss in detail about individual diseases. So the first one is superficial mycosis. Superficial mycosis, either these are of two types: surface infections and cutaneous infections. Now, always keep in mind, superficial mycosis strictly involves skin, hair, nail, and mucosal membranes. That's it. They cannot penetrate into the skin. They cannot penetrate into the subcutaneous layer of the skin. They're strictly surface infections. Keep in mind. They will only infect either nail, skin, hair, or mucosal membranes. Some of the examples of superficial mycosis include dermatophytes, Pityrosporum orbiculare, Axophilia wernicki, Piedra hortea, Trichosporum belgi. Don't worry, I will discuss later, okay? So this is how a superficial fungus infection looks like. So this is a superficial fungal infection, okay? So this is a surface infection, superficial fungal infection. By the way, cutaneous infections are also called dermatophytal infections. Cutaneous infections are called dermatophytal infections. What is the second type of fungal diseases, students? Tell me. Second type of mycosis. We have three mycosis: superficial mycosis. Then what is the second one?
Subcutaneous mycosis.
Subcutaneous. Very good. Subcutaneous mycosis. Now, please try to memorize the words I'm telling now. Very, very important. Basics are very important. Okay. The next slide is very important. Please know the basic terms. Now I will discuss about subcutaneous mycosis. So subcutaneous mycosis can able to, these are the fungus that can localize into the subcutaneous layer of the skin, and they will cause infection, resulting in destruction of the tissue and sinus formations. Sinus formations means holes. Holes will be formed under the skin, and from these holes, from these sinuses, you will see discharge of yellowish fluid. Pus will be discharged from these sinuses because of this skin or subcutaneous fungal infection. These are of four important types. There are four important subcutaneous mycosis. I'm telling again, there are four important subcutaneous fungal infections. Those four are: first one, mycetoma. You already know what is mycetoma. This is how a mycetoma fungal infection looks like. Then second one is chromoblastosis mycosis. Trust me, students, fungal diseases are one of the ugliest or most uncomfortable infections that to anyone can get. You cannot see the suffering of the patient who has this fungal infection. They look ugly, they smell bad. Living along with the fungal infection will be really challenging, especially if it is a subcutaneous or systemic infections. So first one is mycetoma. Then second one is chromoblastosis mycosis. This is how a chromoblastosis mycosis looks like. You will find cauliflower-like tumors on the surface of the skin. This is how a chromoblastosis mycosis looks like. Chromoblastomycosis. This is the infection of a chromoblastomycosis. Chromoblastomycosis. Then third type of infection is sporotrichosis. As the name suggests, we will find spores, a small spores like tumors like things on the surface of skin. That is why they are called as sporotrichosis. So this is how a sporotrichosis looks like. This is a sporotrichosis infection, which is occurred by a Sporothrix kenki, a fungi called Sporothrix kenki. This fungi has a tendency to infect this fungus will spread through lymphatic nodes of the body. We have lymphatic channels with lymphatic blood vessels in our body. Through these lymphatic vessels, this Sporothrix will spread in the body. So this is sporotrichosis. So the third subcutaneous mycosis is sporotrichosis. And last and final is rhinosporodiosis. Rhinosporodiosis means, how many of you know rhinoceros or rhino? What is the difference between hippopotamus and rhino? Both are water elephants only. Both will live in water. Hippopotamus don't have this long nose, whereas rhino will have a nose. The Greek meaning of rhino is nose actually. The Greek meaning of nose is rhino. Now you can understand what type of infection it is. It is a spore-forming fungal infection that particularly affects the nose. That is why this particular infection is called rhinosporodiosis, or the fungus that will cause nose infection. I will show you rhinosporodiosis. I think I have not kept that picture here, but rhinosporodiosis is a infection of the nose, and a fungal infection of the nose. Okay, so these are the four types of subcutaneous mycosis we have. So the four types are mycetoma, chromoblastomycosis, sporotrichosis, and rhinosporodiosis. So these are the four types of subcutaneous infection we will get. In all these four types of infection, we will see sinus formations and discharge of yellowish colored fluid. And it is really unpleasant and uncomfortable for the patient. These are the four types of subcutaneous mycosis. A quick revision. Fungal diseases are of three types: superficial mycosis, subcutaneous mycosis, and systemic mycosis. In the superficial mycosis, we have two types: surface infections and cutaneous infections. Surface infections I will discuss later. Cutaneous infections are also called dermatophytal infections. Then we have subcutaneous mycosis. Subcutaneous mycosis are of four types. They include mycetoma, chromoblastomycosis, sporotrichosis, and rhinosporodiosis. These are the four types of subcutaneous mycosis: mycetoma, chromoblastomycosis, sporotrichosis, and rhinosporodiosis. Okay. Then the third type of fungal diseases are systemic mycosis. Systemic mycosis means they will cause infection. Kindly mute yourself. Who is it? So the third and final is systemic mycosis. So systemic mycosis, these are the one of the deadliest fungal infections. These fungi can able to migrate into the body and it will cause systemic infection. It will cause organ failure. One of the best example is Aspergillus infection. This Aspergillus is a respiratory infection. Patients cannot breathe due to presence of Aspergillus in the lungs. So I will show you few examples of systemic mycosis. The first and foremost is the Cryptococcus neoforms, a very deadly form of fungal infection, where the Cryptococcus neoforms will invade your brain and it will start feeding your brain alive. Okay, so this particular infection is called cryptococcicosis. the infection that is caused by Cryptococcus neoforms is called cryptococcicosis. Cryptococcicosis. Okay. Then second one is aspergillosis. This you already know. Aspergillosis will cause respiratory infection. Pulmonary aspergillosis. It will cause respiratory infection in the patient. Then third one is histoplasmosis. Deadlier than the Cryptococcus neoforms infection. In histoplasmosis, the blood will get infected. The target area of this fungi will be the blood itself. It will cause clotting of blood in the body, resulting in formation of small spores throughout the body. If something goes wrong, means the blood will clot and the patient will die immediately. We cannot predict when the patient will die due to presence of histoplasmosis. This histoplasmosis is occurred by a particular fungi called Histoplasma capsulatum. This Histoplasma capsulatum will cause this histoplasmosis. Then another systemic infection is coccidioidomycosis. So this is how a coccidioidomycosis looks like. So this is coccidioidomycosis. Coccidioidomycosis. Other than coccidioidomycosis, we have another two systemic mycosis that include paracoccidioidomycosis and blastomycosis. Paracoccidioidomycosis and blastomycosis. So these are the three types of fungal infections we have. Then students, I have not included one particular slide in this, but I will include in tomorrow's lecture. There is one more fungal infection called opportunistic fungal infections. These opportunistic mycosis means these fungi will infect only when the patient's immune system suppressed. Only when the patient's immune system suppressed, at that time only these will cause infection. Such infections are called opportunistic mycosis. Some of the opportunistic mycosis include Candida, mucormycosis. Then you have two more opportunistic fungi, okay, Penicillococcus and aspergillosis. Aspergillosis, mucormycosis, Penicillococcus and Candida are opportunistic opportunistic fungal infections. Recently, this mucormycosis became a trend among the COVID-19 patients. So in case of COVID-19, since we are giving these steroids to the patients, steroids will suppress the immune activity. Why we are giving steroids to the person? Why we are suppressing immune system rather than boosting immune system to the COVID patients? Because the lung inflammation occurs because of immune system activation. If there is too much inflammation, patient cannot breathe and he will die. We need to ensure that patient getting proper air. For that purpose, we should ensure that there is no inflammation in the lungs. That means there is no immune reaction in the lungs. That immune reaction can be prevented by administering steroids to the patient. But the problem with steroids is they will suppress immune system. When your immune system suppressed, what will happen? Opportunistic fungi will take their opportunity and they will cause secondary infection. This is how COVID patients who are under steroid therapy are prone to this opportunistic fungus infections such as mucormycosis. So these are the four types of fungal diseases. We have superficial mycosis, subcutaneous mycosis, systemic mycosis, opportunistic mycosis. Superficial mycosis are of two types: surface infections and cutaneous infections. Cutaneous infections are called dermatophytes. Then the second one is subcutaneous mycosis. Subcutaneous mycosis are of four types: mycetoma, sporotrichosis, chromoblastomycosis, rhinosporodiosis. Then we have systemic mycosis that include cryptococcicosis, coccidioidomycosis, paracoccidioidomycosis, and blastomycosis. These are systemic mycosis. Then we have opportunistic mycosis. Opportunistic mycosis include aspergillosis, penicillococcus, mucormycosis, and even Candida species, Candida infection can be stated as a opportunistic mycosis. So this is all about today's lecture, students. So from tomorrow onwards, we can start with a new topic, which is fungal diseases. Okay. So fungal diseases, we will discuss in detail about superficial, subcutaneous, and everything. Okay. So any doubts so far, students? Is everything clear? Is today's lecture clear for everyone? Do you have any doubts? Means you can ask me. If not, I will end this session. So a quick revision. In today's lecture, we discussed about the lab diagnosis. Lab diagnosis, we have direct cultural infections. Direct, we have KOH with Kolkafort, gram staining and Indianing. Then we discussed in detail about the culturing, STA and LPCB. Then we discussed about PASTEN for culturing the tissues. Then we discussed about classification of fungal diseases. These are of three types: superficial, subcutaneous, systemic. Superficial, we have surface and cutaneous. Then subcutaneous, we have three types that include four types that include mycetoma, chromoblastomycosis, sporotrichosis, and rhinosporoidiasis. Then in the systemic, we have histoplasmosis, cryptococcicosis. Then we have blastomycosis and paracoccidomycosis. Then opportunistic, we have aspergillosis, penicillococcus mucormycosis, even Candida. That's it. So from next lecture onwards, we can discuss in detail about superficial mycosis. Can I end this session?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Yes. Thank you very much, students. You can leave.